Hi, I'm Josh. Welcome to the Taste of Home Kitchen. I invite you to follow along with me today as I demonstrate how to make fresh homemade whipped cream with a very simple piece of equipment, a canning jar. Many may be familiar with making whipped cream at home using something like a stand mixer or a hand mixer here, but if you don't have either one of those on hand or you don't feel like lugging them out of the cabinet, a canning jar works just as well. Now you may also be wondering, why would I go to all the trouble of making whipped cream at home when I could just go to the store and buy some? Well, there's some very good answers to that question. And first, in my opinion, fresh homemade whipped cream is far superior in flavor and texture to anything that you can purchase in the store. Additionally, it's also a more cost-effective choice to buy the whipping cream and make it yourself at home. Also, it's a more eco-friendly choice too, because you're not left with an empty aerosol can or a plastic tub once you've finished eating all that whipped cream. Now I'm going to talk about the star ingredient of the whipped cream, the heavy cream itself. When I select heavy cream for the purposes of making whipped cream, I like to choose a high quality heavy cream, something with a high fat content between 36 and 40% or higher. And the reason I want a high fat heavy cream is so that it forms those soft peaks easier when I'm making the whipped cream. Now, if I have any questions about the heavy cream that I am purchasing, I can usually find those answers by consulting the nutritional label on the side of the carton itself. Now, in order for those soft peaks to form, in addition to having a high-fat heavy cream, it needs to be cold, cold, cold. So ensure that your heavy cream is well chilled before you attempt to make the whipped cream. In addition to having my heavy cream selected, I just have a very simple canning jar here. This is a pint-sized jar, so 2 cups, but you can really use any size jar. Just make sure that the jar you select is appropriate to the amount of whipped cream that you're trying to make. And also make sure that it seals really well. You don't want the heavy cream leaking out while you shake. Now, in similar fashion, I need my jar to be cold because shaking causes friction, friction causes heat, and again, we need cold environment for the whipped cream to form properly. So I'm going to place my jar in the freezer. As you can see, my jar is nicely chilled, it's all frosty. So the next step is just to add my heavy cream. I'm going to add about a cup. So since this is a pint-sized jar, it's about half full. And then I'm only going to be using one other ingredient today, and that's confectioner's sugar. I'm going to be adding 2 tablespoons. Now you can add more or less depending on how sweet you like your whipped cream. But I'm going to start with 2 tablespoons. And I'm going to seal my jar. Make sure it's tightly sealed. You don't want that heavy cream leaking out while you shake. And now it's time to shake. This will take anywhere between 5 to 7 minutes to form those soft peaks that I'm looking for. And I'll know that I'm getting close to being done when the sound changes from sloshing to a soft thumping. As you can tell, the sound has dramatically changed. I'm hearing soft thumping inside, and I'm ready to be done shaking. So I'm going to check this out and see what stage we're at. Take the lid off here, and it looks like we are in good shape. You can see that soft peaks have formed, and I've got this nice, soft, fully formed whipped cream, and I can't wait to eat it. Now, I like to use my whipped cream right after I've made it. However, this can be stored into the fridge for 1 to 2 days. You can leave it in the pint jar itself or transfer it to a bowl. Now, simple and plain whipped cream is delicious just like this. However, there are a lot of ways that you can customize your whipped cream and make it feel extra special by adding flavorings. One of the most common choices, of course, is vanilla extract, but there are so many other options beyond vanilla. And one idea is ground cinnamon and maple syrup. That would be a great topping for a pumpkin pie or a spiced apple cider. Lemon zest and lemon extract would add a bright citrus finish to your whipped cream. Or of course, there's flavored liqueurs as well. All of those are really great options. One of my personal favorites is to sift some cocoa powder over my whipped cream and mix that in for a delicious and rich chocolate whipped cream. Just like adding all those different flavorings to your whipped cream, there are so many options for how to use that whipped cream. Fresh berries are almost begging for a dollop of homemade whipped cream. And I like to dress up a simple pound cake or angel food cake with those fresh berries. Of course, the dollop of my freshly made whipped cream. And just because, I'm going to add a little sprinkling of confectioner's sugar to the whole thing. Now, whipped cream is also a really great way to make a beverage feel special, like a hot chocolate here. And of course, A pumpkin pie almost feels incomplete without some whipped cream on top. One of my personal ways to use whipped cream is again to use that chocolate whipped cream. And this is a no-bake peanut butter tart. It's one of my go-to desserts when I don't know what to make and I don't feel like baking. And I'm just gonna pipe on my delicious chocolate flavored whipped cream on top. And to finish off my tart, I'm just gonna add a sprinkling of chocolate shavings, just for some fun texture and interest. I really enjoy having fresh homemade whipped cream at home and ready to use whenever I need it, and I know you will too. Thanks for following along.